Car manufacturers nowadays try to woo you with the features as well as the tech that their vehicles have. But sometimes they forget about the true essence of what a car should be. Something that gets you from point A to point B in a comfortable, practical, and most importantly, affordable manner. And perhaps if that's something you're looking for, this might just be the car for you. This is the 2023 GAC GS4. Today, let's see if this car is any good. This car right here, despite being a compact crossover SUV, only costs 1,160,000 pesos. Usually for that price, you can only get a smaller subcompact crossover SUV. And to achieve this price point, GAC has streamlined the design of this vehicle, but still they did leave those things that truly do matter. So for example, you still do get a pretty good looking grille, you still get LED headlights, but instead of giving you fog lights, for example, they give you some of these fake vents looking things down below on the bumper. On the side of the vehicle too, instead of giving you crazy design cues, they chose to go for a more conservative approach. Nonetheless, you still have a very powerful belt line, you still get 17-inch rims, and if you look up top, you still do get a panoramic sunroof. What is kind of odd is that this quarter window right here is pretty much all just blacked out with a tiny hole for the actual window. One minor complaint I have with a lot of GAC vehicles, so including the GS4, is instead of having the traditional smart keyless entry system wherein you do have to touch or press something on the door handle to lock or unlock it, with this one, as you move up closer to the vehicle, it will automatically unlock, and it will automatically lock as you walk away. That is perfect for when you're carrying a lot of items, but definitely not safe if you're in a very crowded urban area. At the rear, just like the front and the side, you know that they made the design a little bit more streamlined. They did still give you this chrome strip right here, which might divide opinion, but personally, having the taste of an old man, I love chrome. You also get these pretty big tail lamps, you get a spoiler effect up top of the third brake light, but despite trying to cut costs somewhere, they still decided to give you fake exhaust vents. They could have just casually left that out, right? Anyway, open up your tailgate right here and space is pretty big, even for a car of its class. And you can also fold down those rear seats 60/40, but they're not completely flat. Should you want them to be completely flat, you still have to go around towards the second row seats and fold down the seat base. Deal breaker, no, but yeah, it could be kind of annoying. You also get a false floor right here with a space saver spare tire. Now, for power, the GAC GS4 gets this 1.5-liter turbocharged gasoline engine, making 168 horsepower and 265 Newton meters of torque, paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. While some of its competitors tried to go for dual clutch transmissions because they want the sporty appeal, this one, it just sticks with this conventional approach. Perfect for the city too, as it is not jerky in any way. Also, for fuel economy, despite not having a CVT, it's still pretty efficient. You can do 7.3 kilometers per liter inside the city, and on the highway, you're looking at around 18.5 kilometers per liter. Inside the GAC GS4, you also have a very beautiful interior despite its price point. But before we talk about that, let's check the door thud. And it sounds pretty solid too. It feels pretty premium. I mean, you get so much of these soft touch materials on the dashboard. Even the middle part of the dashboard, you get this two-tone effect. The seats too, the leather that they use on it, it feels pretty supple. Even the headrest they have on it has some of these orange stitching. And just in case you don't like all of this orange or brown inside the interior, you can also get the GS4 with the pure black interior. Now, moving towards the steering wheel, it's slightly wrapped in some sort of soft material, but I'm pretty sure it isn't leather and it's not the most supple out there, but it does get the job done. And while you don't get any advanced driver assistance systems right here, you still do get cruise control, and its functions and buttons are all located on the steering wheel. You can also tilt and telescope this to find your perfect driving position. And then your instrument cluster, it's also not digital, but there is a small screen in the middle with a trip computer and a tire pressure monitoring system. It's pretty easy to read. Towards the center though is a pretty small touchscreen, but it serves its purpose. It also comes with Apple CarPlay. Unfortunately, no Android Auto, so it's a little bit elitist to those who have iPhones, but at least it also comes with a reverse camera that, while isn't the clearest out there, is also more than usable. Moving down below, you get some of your AC switches, dual zone climate control, pretty amazing for its price point, a big area to put your phone. Then your shifter, this is where it gets kind of weird. So while the shifter itself is fine, the button that you have to press to unlock it is over at the front. But there's also another button on the side. Naturally and instinctively, you will think that that is the unlock, but no, that's for your manual mode plus and minus. You also get an electronic parking brake and auto hold, plus 2 more cup holders right here, 4 airbags as well. Ingress towards the second row seats, it's pretty easy because the car isn't too high and the doors do open pretty wide. So if you have some elderly family members entering, or if you need to put in child seats, you're not gonna have an issue right here. Anyway, now let's check the door. And it sounds pretty good too. Now, you might think that GAC had to cheap out somewhere, right? To keep the price this low, but no. You see, the materials you get on the front door cars are pretty similar to what you get here at the back. So it's still soft touch leather with stitching on it. You still get an armrest right here. You still get that two-tone leather. And they even do give you 2 air vents plus 2 USB ports too. You also get a map pocket, your panoramic sunroof continues towards the back, and your space is amazing. This is probably class leading, if not the second best in its class. It's quite similar to what you would get with the next gen Ford Territory as well. Plus, to add a little bit more light to the cabin, just in case this panoramic sunroof is not enough, there's even a quarter window behind you. So now we drive the GAC GS4, and just like the exterior and well also the interior of this vehicle, you know, it's a very reserved car. It's not a very dynamic driving vehicle. It's just comfortable. I mean, the steering, it's very light, it's pretty numb. Not great for spirited driving, but obviously perfect for in-town trips. Even if you do take this to the highway though, it remains very composed. There's reasonable amount of noise insulation in here, and the steering is also very straight. Now, speaking of that, what is kind of odd with this vehicle though is that it has this really huge tendency, this affinity of keeping the wheel centered. What do I mean by that? So, you know how in a lot of cars, well, pretty much every single car out there, after you exit a turn, the wheel will naturally go back to center, right? And you want it to go like that. But in this one, when you are going through curves, it kind of fights you. It wants to go back to the center immediately. And while that's not a deal breaker, it's not really something that you're supposed to have to do. You're not supposed to be required to fight the vehicle just to stop it from going back to the center. Kind of weird. Okay, going back to the power. So this has more than reasonable amounts of power. Again, it's not a sports car. It's not also the best in its class when it comes to power. But when you do floor this, there's minimal hesitation. There's only a little bit of a turbo lag. You get your power around 2,500 RPM. And it goes, despite the weight of this vehicle, despite it being very spacious, even if you have 5 passengers on board, you're not going to struggle when it comes to power. The transmission too, it's very smooth. It knows when to shift. It's not jerky in low speeds. And even at high speeds, when you just mash the throttle down, it immediately downshifts. I like the powertrain. It's very reserved but comfortable powertrain. Visibility all around the GS4 is also pretty good. The A-pillar is a little bit thick, but it's not way too thick, and you get to see so much out the back and out the sides too. Even if you're a novice driver, you're not gonna be having a hard time driving this car because you can see pretty much everything out of it. The ride is also incredibly compliant because a lot of the cars nowadays in this class, they want to make it as sporty as possible. They want to give you very dynamic type of ride. But with the GS4, it's just soft, but it's not too soft. It's not too floaty to the point that it's going to induce some sort of nausea from you, the driver, or the passengers. It's just great. It's just what you would expect from a compact crossover SUV that's catered a little bit more towards the comforts of the entire family and not just the driving pleasure of the driver. So what do I think about the GAC GS4? At its price of 1,160,000 pesos, I think this is one of the most underrated cars in its class. Its competitors try to woo you with technology and driving dynamics, but I think for a lot of people, those don't really matter. For a lot of people looking for a car at this price point, it's all about getting to point A to point B comfortably and reliably and with tons of space and practicality. And in those aspects, the GAC GS4 truly delivers. So if you're not really an avid fan of going and driving fast and spiritedly, then this is a car that I urge you to just go out, test drive it, and is one to definitely consider.